Good morning, Michigan. A very marvelous Monday to you. It's a pure Michigan Monday here in the American Metal Roof Studio in the Gillespie Group Stadium District building, just down the street from Governor Snyder's office. And his second floor Romney Building office is getting refitted with new bulletproof windows. Now, don't get carried away. It's not because there's any special threat to the governor. It's just that apparently the seals around the old glass are getting kind of old. Those windows were put in back in 1989. They are bulletproof as it is, but it's going to be a $38,000 job to replace those 5 windows, 2 of them facing Capitol Avenue and 3 overlooking Michigan Avenue. There are some people taking shots at the governor, not literally, but it's a group called Michigan Citizens United. They filed paperwork across Washtenaw County. They want to recall Governor Snyder. Now, it's not going to be very easy. First of all, they have to get the language approved. And then they have to get 806,522 signatures just to put it to a vote. And they want to get more than 1 million, and they want to start collecting on May 8th, but it's a huge, huge task for somebody to be able to do that, and it costs money, too, because you got to hire petition circulators and all that sort of thing. So what will happen next? I don't know. They're riled up because they say the emergency financial manager legislation signed by Snyder that gives managers the power to void union contracts is not right, and they want to recall the governor. Now, the governor's got his own work, obviously, sitting on his desk. He wants to get the budget solved by the very end of May. And earlier this morning, I asked Ed Sarpolis, the founder of Target Insights, it's not easy, is it, Ed? I mean, even though the governor has a Republican House and a Republican Senate, and he's a Republican, some people might look at the math on that and say, how can the budget be complicated? After all, they're going to cut money to K through 12 schools and universities, and they're going to cut welfare and cut community colleges, and they're going to try to find some savings in the prisons, and they're going to maybe tax some of the income on retirees, and we're going to change the business tax, though, so business people spend less, and then you got the film incentives to deal with. But you would think everybody would say, oh, he's a Republican, we're a Republican, kumbaya. It doesn't work that way, does it, Ed?
No, it's not. Well, what's happening here is that, especially in the Senate more than the State House, they realize that they have constituents back home that they have to go and say, here's what I did for you. Here's the bacon I brought home. And under Governor Snyder's budget, there is no bacon to take home. It's an empty sack. And, you know, as elected official, Republican or Democrat, you're not going to go home and face the heat to the voters that you depend upon for fundraising and for votes in the fall of November 12 or 14.
Yeah, now the governor may not care about getting reelected, but the senators and representatives almost certainly do. One of the other areas that seems like it's due to be cut are the brownfield credits. And so urban and development experts and local officials are trying to preserve key elements of what they consider the most important economic program in rebuilding Michigan cities, a tax credit that redevelops areas that at one time were shuttered factories, old industrial sites, blights, places that you look at and say, wow, that looks awful, and many times it's contaminated as well. But there may be a cut of brownfield credits where they give somebody who's willing to develop that site a tax break. Pat Gillespie is one of those people. In fact, the building we're sitting in right now in the Gillespie Group Stadium District building was a brownfield project. It wouldn't exist if it weren't for those tax credits, and he's got a couple of more. And I talked with him earlier and asked him if he was worried about the potential of these cuts to the brownfield credits.
Well, yeah, first of all, we are worried. The governor has said that most of them, if not all of them, are going to go away. And basically, a brownfield credit is something that's being used around the state right now to clean up urban sites that have been sitting a long time that are contaminated or blighted or have a building on it that's such bad repair that it needs to be torn down and a new one put up. That's helping spur Detroit, Grand Rapids, Flint, Lansing, and Kalamazoo do many of these projects that are going on. In fact, the building that you're in, would not be possible without some type of brownfield credit because the site was contaminated.
Yeah.
I'm talking to developers around the state that they're basically going into shutdown because they don't know what's going to happen, and these urban stuff's really going to come to a slowdown or a stop.
All it takes is money. 11 minutes after the hour, Michael Patrick Shields, the Florida pastor Terry Jones, and the controversy. He's the one that wanted to burn the Koran on 9/11, and it caused all sorts of trouble worldwide, especially through the Muslim world. And he wanted to protest on Good Friday at the Islamic Center in Dearborn. And he was setting up to do that and was arrested. And then there was a jury trial that said he was going to create a breach of the peace if he protested outside the Islamic Center. And he's saying, wait a minute, how can I be arrested for something I didn't do, I was thinking about doing? And so he is probably going to sue. And the group that's going to help him is the Thomas More Law Center out of Ann Arbor. And Brian Rooney, we spoke to earlier this morning, used to work for the Thomas More Law Center. And I asked him, he may have a case here, Pastor Jones. What happened? And this is what Brian Rooney told me. We'll get back to Brian Rooney a little bit later. Apparently that tape's not working. What he did say, though, is that he might have a case, and how you go and arrest someone for something they were just thinking about doesn't really make sense. So stay tuned for that. Also, earlier this morning, we got a chance to tell you that Rich Rodriguez is saying maybe coming to Michigan was a mistake. Former Michigan football coach apparently is sort of getting nostalgic, and he says, at the time I was looking to do some things, the opportunity was there, and I made the move, but now it's easy to go back and say, gee, I made a mistake. We had a good thing going at West Virginia. We really enjoyed it, and when you look back, it wasn't the best move, but that's easy to say now. That's what Rich Rodriguez is saying about his situation. By the way, Brady, these guys are all getting nostalgic because Brady Hoke spent part of his weekend observing one of his former teams. He went down to Muncie, Indiana, and attended the spring game at Ball State. And was a team that Brady Hoke, when he was coaching them, long before he came here to Michigan, had its best season ever. And so Brady Hoke was getting a little bit nostalgic this weekend, too. We'll talk to Mark D'Antonio, the Michigan State football coach, coming up a little bit later in the program. He's got the green and white game this weekend. Did you go to church yesterday on Easter Sunday? Well, authorities say a man walked into a Detroit area church, swiped a bag holding thousands of dollars that was collected by the church, and made off with it. It was the Lady of Mount Carmel Roman Catholic Church in Wyandotte. That's where I grew up. My parents were at that mass. Authorities say the man walked into the church, asked to speak with the priest, went through a back hallway, took the money bag, and left. And they're on the look for anyone trying to cash checks made out to the church or cash. And they're going to release a sketch of the dirty scoundrel that went into the place where I was baptized, and the place where I got First Communion and confirmation, and swiped a bag of money on Easter Sunday. Can you believe it? It's Michael Patrick Shields all across the state of Michigan. Glad to have you with us on this Monday morning.